Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we've got some Xbox One gameplay of the new redesigned Gulf of Oman map for Battlefield 4. This has been a favorite since Battlefield 2. It was in Battlefield 3. It's a very large conquest map, and what you just saw there was a massive sandstorm blowing in, which is going to restrict the visibility of all players on the map. So if you're the kind of player who like to snipe at long range, perhaps on top of the buildings, the skyscrapers, no longer can you do that with the sandstorm. If you're in a helicopter or a jet, your vision is going to be restricted immensely, so it's going to be very difficult to get any sort of long range kill once the sandstorm blows in. The sandstorm itself is a timed release, so there's nothing you can do to actually trigger it. It's just once you're a certain distance into the ground or a certain time period into that match, then the sandstorm will blow in. And as you can see here, I'm running across the beach, which is one of the areas of the map that has actually been updated the most. You'll see there's a lot of rocks, there's barbed wire, there's cover, there's even guard towers here. Now you might be thinking, why do we need guard towers? It was already hard enough to storm the beach, but with all the rocks now featuring a lot more cover, I think it's actually going to be easier for infantry and vehicles to get a front hold on the beach if you need to. Occasionally in this map, the US players would get quarantined on the aircraft carrier and they would have to try and make beach drops to retake some of their land, which was very difficult to do. Hopefully that'll be a little bit easier now. And from the aerial view here before the sandstorm hits, you can see that the map looks pretty much the same as the Battlefield 3 one in terms of the layout anyway. Now when you get in close, you're going to notice a lot of small details that have been updated, changed graphically. It's been improved a lot. You can actually see a really big improvement on the Xbox One alone. And as we fly over the points here, you're going to recognize a lot of these buildings you've fought in before because they're pretty much identical. It's once you get on the ground and look at the surrounding areas, the debris, the rock formations, the trees, the crates, a lot of the portables, that sort of stuff has been updated, changed around, and as I ran through the map, it really does look like they've updated it a lot more, tried to give infantry some better cover options, especially on some of these beach points here that are so susceptible to aerial attacks. We now have a few more cover options and structures that you can go inside of and take better cover in. Now, a hot topic in all the new maps on Battlefield 4 is the Levolution events. Now, we've already seen the Dust Storm, which is pretty darn spectacular, and by itself it's very, very impressive. But there's another Levolution event. In fact, this crane on E Point can be brought down. I believe it can only be brought down once the storm begins, and then players can mess with the counterbalances here to actually bring it down. I didn't get footage of it, but it was explained to me by a dev. Now, of course, I had to jump into the skid loader, which they brought back. It's a fan favorite at this point, and I've actually been really surprised at how well this thing's been updated. Now, the handling isn't great, but the speed overall has gone through a big update. So if you actually get out into the open road, this is now a legitimate transportation vehicle. Obviously, I'm having some trouble getting around these little cramped areas of the map, but on the road itself, this thing has no problem hauling ass. Here we are at the iconic F point. This place represents the area that was always in the team deathmatch version of the game. It's also very infantry intensive because there's a lot of places to hide, but also all of these buildings were once destructible, and I believe, again, they are also still destructible. Looks very similar. There's been some, again, minor updates. You know, there's some black and yellow tires put in here, different elements of cover, that sort of thing. Signs have been kind of improved upon, textures have been improved, but for the most part you can jump into F point and really know where everything is located. Now check out the top speed on this little guy. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more C4 skid loaders in the mix. Here we are in an actual game, and I'm parachuting down onto G point, although this is obliteration, so it's not technically G point right now. But if we were playing Conquest Large, this would be G. And the pools are still filled with water, which is surprising that tourism is still doing so well considering how war-stricken this area is. And if you're a fan of Gulf of Oman on Battlefield 3, or even Battlefield 2, technically this is the third rendition of this map, then it's going to play out very similarly before the storm hits. Now, after the storm hits, that's an entirely different story. Feels like a completely different map. Sure, the layout's the same, but your visibility has been obstructed so much that you now have to look at every sort of combat situation as a close quarter combat situation, and it's absolutely insane for playing obliteration. Now, the storm changes the visibility on this map more so than any other map I've ever played and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this storm affects all types of game mode, especially even Team Deathmatch or Domination. If they have it on by default, it could completely change up the flow of this map. So there's a lot of things that you're not sure what to expect. In fact, you might start off sniping in a round, be doing really well as a sniper, and then have to switch up to support or engineer later in the round to get some good close quarter kills and deal with some vehicles in close quarter situations. And speaking of vehicles, I'm about to hop into the new Dune Buggy, which instead of having a 50 cal mounted on top now has a grenade launcher that's essentially an automatic firing grenade launcher. And I only get one hit on that LAV before it wastes us, but it does an 8-point damage hit there. So that indicates that the new Dune Buggies are actually going to be decent anti-armor threats. I imagine the grenade launcher is going to be excellent for taking out infantry as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those lighter, super light armored vehicles actually being able to do some damage against the heavy armor. So at first glance, Gulf of Oman seems like very familiar territory, a place that you would be able to recognize just like the Battlefield 3 map. But once that storm starts blowing, once the tower comes down and the gameplay really picks up, it feels like an entirely different experience than what we had in the previous map. So I really think DICE knew what they were doing when they brought that storm coming in. It wasn't just a way to make things look cool, it actually changes up the gameplay so much that this map plays out differently, even if geographically it hasn't really been changed too much. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.